again. Oof. Some darkness out there. Dark world. I just noticed this Psalm 119. I may have seen it before, but I just really noticed it though. Like really seeing it. I didn't, and I think I have looked at it literally before, but I didn't see it, or it didn't mean anything when I did. But I just noticed because I was moved to look at 119. That's what came to mind when I saw 119 subscribers, which means nothing to me as far as numbers. But that's the number I noticed for that I see right now. So then I moved to Psalm 119, and that I thought verse 119 came up to my mind right away, and sure enough, it existed because it is such a big chapter. I think it's the biggest chapter in His Word, with as many verses as it has, 176 verses. It's funny because that's 9/11 backwards, right? 9/11. Just a sick game this world is. I think that's some kind of accident. 9/11. You had the devil's prophecy for 9/11. Nothing this world does is truth. I have a footnote. I noticed it's not in my app. The King James doesn't have it. The Young's Literal doesn't have it, but the NIV has it. It shows the letters here, and New King James Version has it. At least the NIV puts a footnote. So like the beginning of each section, each letter, I think the first letter is that the first verse of each letter section is that letter, I believe. Well, I can read the footnote real quick. Stanzas of which begin with successive letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Moreover, the verses of each stanza begin with the same letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Yeah, okay. And it's divided by 8, interestingly. That number 8 stands out again to me. It's no accident what happened here. Now something else just came to my mind. This seems purpose to me, pretty obvious. 119. Obviously, why do we have COVID-19 now? Why is 19? Is it life? Is it an attack on life, DNA, life? 19, just another mockery, another sick devil joke, people getting sick. Psalm 119 happens to be this special giant chapter with 8 verses divided by 22 letters, Hebrew letters in order. It's like His Word is preserved within His Word, because we got the letters within His Word. And I've looked into it a little bit because there's more sounds and letters, but it looks like from what I can see, it's the 22 main letters. They're not the final form, where if it's at the end of a word, if a letter's at the certain letters, if they're at the end of the word, then it becomes a final form. It changes form like written down, but it has the same main sound. From what I understand, maybe it's a little softer or something, but it changes form for some reason when it's at the end versus beginning or middle. It's kind of like another witness to the Father's very own name. Every time those 2 or 3 letters of the Father's name are at the end, it's never yeah, but it's Yah at the end, like hallelujah, but it's not at the beginning like that in any example I know of. So we have the very first verse, Aleph, first letter, Aleph. Blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the law of Jehovah. Such a big chapter. So much is being said here. So strong. And then 8 verses. The last verse, 8, I will keep your statutes. Oh, do not forsake me utterly. Then Bet, second letter begins with verse 9. How can a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed according to your word. And the last verse of this second letter, bet, I will delight myself in your statutes. I will not forget your word. Then the third letter is Gimel, the G sound. 17, deal bountifully with your servant that I may live and keep your word. Last verse for the Gimel, your testimonies also are my delight and my counselors. Then we have Dalet, D sound, starts with verse 25, my soul clings to the dust, revive me according to your word. Last verse for Dalet, for the 8th verse for the section, I will run the course of your commandments, for you shall enlarge my heart. Then there's the next letter is Hey, H sound. Teach me, O Yehovah, the way of your statutes, and I will keep it to the end. Last verse for Hey, behold, I long for your precepts. Revive me in your righteousness. Next letter is Vav. Let your mercies come to me, O Yehovah, your salvation according to your word. Last verse for Vav. My hands also will I lift up your commandments, which I love, and I will meditate on your statutes. Next letter, Zion, Z sound. Remember the word to your servant upon which you have caused me to hope. Last verse for Zion is this has become mine because I kept your precepts. Next letter is what they call, I guess, guttural sound, that sound, cheth sound. You are my portion, O Yehovah. I have said that I would keep your words. Last verse for that sound letter. The earth, O Yehovah, is full of your mercy. Teach me your statutes. Next letter is tet, the T sound, tet. You have dealt well with your servant, O Yehovah, according to your word. Last verse for tet. The law of your mouth is better to me than thousands of coins of gold and silver. Next one is the smallest main letter, the Yud, the Y sound, the little mark. Your hands have made me and fashioned me. Give me understanding that I may learn your commandments. Last verse for Yud. Let my heart be blameless regarding your statutes, that I may not be ashamed. Next one is Kaf, Kaf. I think the K sound. My soul faints for your salvation, but I hope in your word. Last letter for Kaf is revive me according to your loving kindness so that I may keep the testimony of your mouth. Next letter is Lamed, L sound. Forever, O Yehovah, your word is settled in heaven. Last verse of Lamed. I have seen the consummation of all perfection, but your commandment is exceedingly broad. Next letter is Mem, M sound. Oh, how I love your law. It is my meditation all the day. Last one for Mem. Through your precepts I get understanding, therefore I hate every false way. Next letter is Nun, N sound. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Last one for Nun is I have inclined my heart to perform your statutes forever to the end, to the very end. Next one is Samek, that's S sound. I hate the double-minded, but I love your law. Last verse for Samek is my flesh trembles for fear of you, and I am afraid of your judgments. Next letter is Ayin. I think it acts as a silent a lot of times. I have done justice and righteousness. Do not leave me to my oppressors. Last verse for Ayin. Therefore, all your precepts concerning all things I consider to be right. I hate every false way. Next letter is Pei, P sound. Your testimonies are wonderful, therefore my soul keeps them. Last verse for pay is rivers of water run down from my eyes because men do not keep your law. True, true. Every word is true. Next letter is Sadi, Sade. The T sound. Righteous are you, O Jehovah, and upright are your judgments. The righteousness of the last verse for Sadi. The righteousness of your testimonies is everlasting. Give me understanding, and I shall live. Next one is Kuf, K sound. I cry out with my whole heart, hear me, O Jehovah, I will keep your statutes. Last verse for Kuf is concerning your testimonies, I have known of old that you have founded them forever. Next letter is Reish, the rolled R sound. Consider my affliction and deliver me, for I do not forget your law. Last verse of Reish. The entirety of your word is truth, and every one of your righteous judgments endures forever. Then next one is Shin, the sh sound, with a dot on the right. Princes persecute me without a cause, but my heart stands in awe of your word. Yes, it is an awe to actually live that verse. Persecute without a cause. Last verse for Shin is I keep your precepts and your testimonies, for all my ways are before you. And the last letter is Toph, the T sound. Let my cry come before you, O Jehovah, give me understanding according to your word. Last verse of the chapter and letter for Toph. I have gone astray like a lost sheep. Seek your servant, for I do not forget your commandments. 176 verses, but I did the first and last of every letter. It begins with the law, verse 1, and it ends with the commandments, the law, the very last verse. And all the verses in between that I didn't read, it mentions it way more times. And it mentioned it a lot of times just doing the first and last of every letter. It's incredibly powerful, strong. And people quote this in the church world, Psalm 119 with squiggly stuff. And they hate his law. They nailed it to the stake. Shameful, evil, vile, hypocrisy, and foolishness, blind. They don't believe any of his word. They just say they believe it. They just say that they believe that they believe. It's just something to say, and then I say, yes, I do, because I said so. That's literally how shallow man is. He goes, I believe in his word. Therefore, it claimed to believe the words it says. Therefore, it will defend to the death the words it said, because it said so. That's it. That's its understanding. That's not what we're asking and saying. Unbelievable. Talking about actually what it means and learning it and living it. That's what we mean by believing it. We don't just talk, say the words, I believe because I say so. Prove it. No proof. All their works prove against them. You nailed 119 to the stake. Never post 119 anywhere and say you believe Psalm 119 in the church world, in the harlotry. You nailed 119 to the stake. It might as well be 9/11 crashing and crumbling down. When you did the backwards thing, you get the towers that fall. Sick. Crumbling his word, crumbling the commandments on earth, not in heaven. Then pretending to believe it. But I never noticed. I just see these for what it is now. And I thought it was amazing to me. It's got the Hebrew letters, 22 of them. But I see these are the letters, the main Hebrew letters, I believe, out of which every other form comes from. So like the Shin, the Toph, the last one is Tav and Toph. Well, if it has a dot in the middle, it's T, I believe. Without the dot, it's the TH sound. Th. or a like that. But it just shows it without the dot, at least what I'm reading here. It just shows the main letter, so it looks like it never does a duplicate of a different, because it's the same letter. It just puts a dot in it, changes the sound. So then it puts the shin here, which is a dot on top at the right. Then it's the exact same Hebrew letter, but the dot goes on the left and it's called sin. That's no accident. On the left is sin. On the right, it's something else. It's not sin, it's shin. Two different things depending on where the tiny dot went. So it looks like the 22 Hebrew letters, it's the same exact Hebrew letter, same shape, everything. It just has the dot on the left. So it looks like that's not included in the main 22. Reish, that one just by itself. Kuf, that I believe has a final form, but it shows this one. Sadi has a main one in final form. Pei, it's showing Pei has a final form and a double. If you put the dot in there, it becomes Fei, I believe, instead of Pei. I believe it's the F sound if you put a dot in the same exact symbol, and it has a final form when it's at the end of the word. Ayin is by itself. Samek, I think, is by itself, maybe. Noon has a main noon and then a final form. Looks like the 22 letters are just the main ones out of which the other forms come out of, is my understanding. Mem has a final form. It's crazy, I just noticed this to see it. Didn't notice before. I think I've looked at it, but I didn't see it, that kind of blinding. It's purposed. Every 8 verses, there's a Hebrew letter, 22 of them, times 876 verses. Seems very purpose to me. So what the question that came to my mind because of it is the chapter numbers. It just makes me wonder. Chapter and verses. But I don't know. I haven't gone there. Was that just added to his words, the numbers, but it had 8 verses, and who decided what a verse is and what it's not? I don't know. I don't know on chapter numbers and verses. Maybe it's a deception too, and it's always been there. I don't know for sure on that, but I think that's all. Someone can read 119. It's huge, but that's all I have. I didn't know. 911 is 119 backwards, and that's the law and commandments crumbling down. When you go backwards, it's 911. Well, backwards for the church world is throw away his commandments, and you get 911 when you go backwards. It starts with verse 1 and ends with 176, the law, and at the end it ends with the commandments. And in between it mentions them a lot of times. The question that comes to my mind that I do not know the answer for is if the chapter, verses, and numbers have always been there, but I don't know. Maybe they haven't. It's just odd because the numbers, I've seen too many things with the numbers. If they were just added numbers next to the verses way later, I don't know. Don't know for that. But I do believe and trust that what we have today, these markings in Psalm 119 are the Hebrew letters. They're the same ones that we have today, or even modern Hebrew is using them. I believe they always have been. That's my belief after looking into it. I don't believe it's been any other letters. That I don't believe the Father changed in his own word. Could change out there in corruption and divisions, but not with his. I don't believe it happened with his word, though. It's like preserved within this chapter too. Not every translation shows this though in my Bible app. I don't know why they wouldn't show it if that's what's really in the actual text, which I believe it is. That's why it's showing me that. That's a bad testimony and thing on the creator of the heavens and earth too, that the mankind can make fun of him and say that he can't even keep it together with his word, but can't even keep the same letters, his whole entire alphabet changed form. you know I don't believe it happened. Why would the creator do that with his word, or allow it to stand or happen? 119, it's an interesting number. I think that's it. you know I don't think it's an accident that COVID-19 is called what it is either. 19, attack on life, disease, sickness on life. Maybe that's what 19 is representing. All right, peace, take care.